eyes of the nation are focused on Delaware.
This little building is home to 294,987 businesses. And here I am, posing for thumbnails in front of it.
What? Pointing? Here's a pointing one.
Oh, and that number, we actually don't know how many businesses are in that building because there are more every single day. Estimates of the businesses that list 1209 North Orange Street as their address range from 285,000 to 300,000. You will max out the government's search engine looking for it. This address is the registered office of everyone, from Netflix to Uber. But it is not in San Francisco or LA, but here, 1209 North Orange Street, Wilmington, Delaware. How did this happen? This search sent me to other, even stranger buildings around Delaware, and it opened up a bigger question about business and government, and put me right in the middle of a debate. Is this little building a good thing?
I mean, we all know that Delaware is preeminent in corporate governance.
I do have a side quest here, which is that I want to update the Wikipedia photo for this building. So right now the awning is red. We need to show the universe that it is green.
I'll have more on the building because I actually found out some stuff by visiting these registered offices, but the bigger question is, why would a corporation want a registered office in Delaware? And why would Delaware want them? So, am I the only one who finds it extremely satisfying to rip electrical tape? I'm always very proud of myself. So, before I explain that map and what everything on it means, I want to present you with a message from today's sponsor, which is Incogni. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring this video. I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me the other day. I lost my physical credit card at a restaurant, and there were basically no consequences from it. I got a new one. But as I logged into various autopay sites to update my credit card number, I realized over and over again how many times I've been involved in a data breach. Maybe you've gotten a little warning like this saying that your password has been compromised. There's this whole world of data brokers out there who are interested in selling your information no matter how it was gotten. That is where Incogni comes in. You can send them out to go and stop it. Now, for the past 2 weeks, I've been researching all this legal corporation stuff, so I'm really schooled on just how hard and complicated it can be to do this on your own. And that's why you have Incogni as this kind of expert in your corner. So if you look on here, it says that they've sent 159 requests to remove my information. They've got 27 in progress, and 132 are already completed. It saved me 99 hours of labor, and judging by the amount of effort that legal work can take, I believe it. So go ahead and try it out for yourself. You'll get it risk-free for 30 days with their 30-day money-back guarantee. And go to my link. It is incogni.com/Phil Edwards, and you will get 60% off the annual plan. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring this video. Now, let's go ahead and see some of the scarier reasons that companies might want to be in Delaware with a show that is perfect for the topic of tax law.
Batman, you're here. Commissioner Boredom, I made it to Delaware. Is the Joker here? No, it's even worse. Shell corporations. Yeah.
The first thing you'll hear about when it comes to Delaware incorporation is shell corporations. It's really, really easy to make a Delaware corporation fast. The idea is to layer increasingly narrow and obscure corporations like a Russian nesting doll to avoid scrutiny. So you wouldn't have Wayne Enterprises build a Batmobile. You'd use anonymous shells to hide the money. There are plenty of real-world examples of this. People love to bring up Russian arms dealer Victor Bout's old money laundering operations, which went through Delaware LLCs, among others.
Now, Commissioner Boredom, tell me the truth about the building on North Orange Street. First, I need to tell you about the Delaware loophole.
The Delaware loophole is the other big tax thing. If Wayne Enterprises has its real headquarters in Gotham, which is in New Jersey, that's apparently canon, they still pay New Jersey state taxes. But they could have a Delaware corporation where they moved some particular intangible assets. Think inventions, patents, trademarks. They could then have a Delaware corporation rent or lease those intangible assets to the bigger company for like $1 billion. And New Jersey would miss out on that $1 billion while Delaware wouldn't charge them any taxes. But those scary reasons aren't the only reason that a corporation would want to form in Delaware. And as I'll show you later, some of those scary reasons are kind of fading away. There are, however, compelling reasons to form in Delaware, but for that, I had to drive further down the map to another very unusual building.
The Chancery Court.
There are actually 3 Chancery courthouses.
I get the impression most of the Chancery Court stuff is actually done in this big, very non-quaint building in Wilmington, but you know, this is nicer. It says Court of Chancery on the top, so I feel like that's important. Not gonna lie, I thought it would be a little quainter when I drove all the way down here. It took me like an hour. I don't know, there's a fountain. That's something.
And this is the key, maybe more important reason that companies want to be in Delaware. They aren't just hiding, they're seeking a state with laws made for business. Court of Chancery sounds like where Mr. Pennybags gets divorced, but all you really need to know is that it is a super business-focused court. It's different from a normal court. It's run by chancellors in a tie back to English chancery courts that Delaware, remember the first state, copied. These chancellors, they are like super judges, and they're a very clear example of how Delaware is specially built to do corporate law. I like this old explanation by Leo Strine Jr. He is a former chancellor who was trying to explain to Europeans why Delaware is so weird and, in his opinion, so special. The chancellor issued written decisions that, unlike a jury verdict, provided useful guidance for future analogous situations. So what's the translation? As opposed to a jury court, where you've got 12 random people who are kind of deciding whatever they want, if you have a chancellor making corporate law decisions, that sets a useful precedent for future decisions. Chancery judges act with speed and produce predictable, efficient results. And it's not just the judges, but the law in Delaware is really tailored to solve business disputes. Delaware's general corporation law favors efficiency. The business judgment rule is the most important. It basically says that managers can't get sued for being dumb.
That makes a lot of sense to me. You have to allow management to allocate capital as they see fit. They might have unusual uses for it.
And moreover, these laws are made by corporate lawyers of all kinds to have up-to-the-minute law that reflects business needs. So Delaware is clearly built to be this factory for corporate law. But that leads us to another question. Why do they want it so much? Let's go back to the little building, because I think that these buildings actually do teach you something about Delaware. I tried walking across the street really cool, but I got scared about my camera. This building is an office for CT Corporation, which is the registered office for a bunch of businesses based around the world. In order to become a Delaware corporation, all you have to do is designate a registered agent in the state. Rather than rent a whole building for yourself and, staff this fake office, all you have to do is designate a registered agent. So even though Netflix is in California and puts that address on financial documents, they are a Delaware corporation registered at the Corporation Trust Center. So that is how all those businesses fit in this little building. I put a me on there for scale. That is just the beginning of the story. This is a small building for those companies, but it is a big business for a state like Delaware. Corporation Trust is owned by a Dutch company, Wolters Kluwer, that just happens to be really good at this stuff. And they have a pretty big building in the Netherlands.
I've got the camera out there. See how it goes.
I also drove across town to the home of the Cheesecake Factory.
Not this one, this one.
The Corporation Services Center is another registered agent company and corporate services company, but it's a big building. It's a big business, as you can see. And I think that matters a lot to Delaware. In an 1899 issue of the American Law Review, Delaware was called a little community of truck farmers and clam diggers. It was Little Delaware. This state is physically tiny. They need any industry they can get, and they leapt on corporate law. While they don't have taxes, they have fees, franchise fees, that make an impact on a tiny state budget.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
I love part of this panel of chancellors and past chancellors because they really hit home that these are all Delawareans, and this is a Delaware franchise.
There's a real local flavor. And the University of Delaware, indeed, as Bruce said, should be immensely proud. Bill, Leo, Greg all went to the University of Delaware.
They live in and love Delaware. They need their hometown industry, law, to succeed.
We've always had each other's backs, that we've always gone out for drinks after arguments.
These chancellors are even kind of celebrities in legal circles as ambassadors for Delaware corporate law. All this is only helped by Delaware's convenient placement between Washington, D.C. and New York City. As Leo Strine said,
the fact that people could get on a train right from DC or New York and get off the train, not even have to get in a car, do a 5-minute walk to the courthouse, and then be back in their office, yeah, it's an advantage.
It's these factors that have held off Chancery Court competitors like Wyoming and kept Delaware the prime corporate legal hub for the United States.
Effectively, we've seen more of everything.
Okay, so what if all this corporation stuff depresses you? This story can occasionally feel like a Wikipedia page that only occasionally gets refreshed with a beautiful photo. That's right. I made it, baby. If you don't buy my argument about Delaware's legal prowess and think it's just a loophole, well, be heartened, because progress is being made. The money laundering loophole is probably being closed by the Corporate Transparency Act of 2019, which was made to prevent LLC money laundering. It requires you to associate your company with a real person. I literally just did this for the LLC that I have. And the famous Delaware loophole for intangible assets? So more than half of the states have passed this thing called combined reporting. It closes the Delaware loophole because you have to report the income of all your subsidiaries to the state. That includes New Jersey, Mr. Wayne.
I've heard that Wayne Corp does comply with tax law as it is written, so no need to apprehend them for that.
But I will say that this is kind of the idea behind federalism, that each state is this laboratory for democracy, and they get good at different things, responding naturally to the market. Delaware, thanks to unique incentives, became a corporate law superstar. And I think that the recent laws show that abuses can be curbed over time while an institution is still being built up. I like that different places in the United States can become these specialized factories for bridges or potatoes or cheesecakes. And I think it's not that unusual that you could also have a factory for law, even if it is housed in a pretty small building. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. You'll find the sources to this video in the description. The primary one that I used was a book called What's the Matter with Delaware? Obviously, that book has a bit of a take, so I kind of delved deeper to look at academic papers and stuff like that. So you'll find those linked in the description. There's also a lot of nuance that I wasn't able to get into here that you will find on the Patreon reaction video. Really wanted to jam in this thing about spamming the courts with different fees as resolved, and it gets confusing really quickly, but I have the extra stuff up there. Yeah, if you haven't been here before, this is a channel where I talk about how history affects business, technology, and the way things are today. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until the next time, maybe form a corporation just for kicks. If that's what you feel like doing.